T.
So, dude, how's your week been?
Been very, very good, man. Very, very, very good. Hopefully, this will be the last week for school, even though next week is, but this will be the last final full week of school. And I'm just so excited for the summertime. How about you?
Yeah, the week's been good. Work's been good. The dogs are good. Anna's good. Looking forward to tomorrow night with AEW with their show going on. They got the Forbidden Door in a couple weeks. Raw, happened last night with the whole Liv Morgan situation. Getting ready for Clash of the Castle, which should be an exciting show. And you know who is going to show up.
I think Rhea should either show up on the last episode of Raw before Clash, or I'm thinking maybe going into Money in the Bank. I think she comes out after that weekend, and they start the Liv Morgan Rhea Ripley feud again at SummerSlam.
Yes, for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I don't know what the hell's going on with my camera, but obviously you can see T going on, but you can only hear me audio. So as long as you can hear me, we're all good. Um, I don't know, dude. I think Rhea Ripley's still injured. I mean, she may come back at SummerSlam. Um, I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens. It looks like the Liv Morgan storyline is playing out nicely with Dominic and the Judgment Day, and LWO is getting involved, and it's a whole mess. Obviously, we have the Uncle Howdy QR code last night. I scanned that. I went through it. It's a fucking book, dude. I mean, there's so much going on. There's clicks and links and reading. I don't I enjoy it. I don't mind the lore and the mystique of it, but I mean, we got to get a reveal at some point because we're looking at a month and a couple weeks. This has been going on. Um, maybe they'll debut Clash of the Castle, but I've always said, who are they going to target?
So, what brought me to the whole Bray Wyatt story in the very, very beginning was back when he first debuted as Bray Wyatt in the Wyatt family. I think going forward, if you remember back in 2012, or not 2012, 2013,
Mm-hmm.
if you remember when he started that feud with Kane in the very, very beginning, you have to really look into why did he chose July to show up and start his family thing and to go against Kane as his first opponent. Why was he going to target Kane in the very, very beginning?
Yes.
Now, maybe we get an what they call it, like a not like a word problem, like some kind of like a situation between that two of them, because I think like Bray Wyatt wanted to go after the guys that he felt like he could go after fast and not go through some kind of like jobber rookie in the very beginning and try to build him stronger just by beating up those guys in the very beginning.
Yes.
But if you want to make a big impact in your debut, especially if you're bringing in a new group,
Mm-hmm.
you have to look into who can I target in the very beginning, especially if somebody's like on fire, somebody has like been on a winning streak in the last couple weeks or a couple months.
Yep.
Who can I target? You got to think like, where am I going to be at when I target this person? Where can it go from that point on out? So
Right.
when he chose Kane at SummerSlam for the Fire Rings of Hell match,
Yes.
where was it going to take him after that match? Like, Daniel Bryan came up after that. So when that situation came about with him and Daniel Bryan,
Right.
going to 2014, where's this new group, the Wyatt Six, going to fit into when they first come in? How is it going to play out? I feel like when they first come in, because like when I watched last night and I watched how Braun Strowman's getting attacked by the Judgment Day the whole time. So do we see a couple of the group members like Joey Grave? Or um, do we see Dexter Loomis? These guys come in right away and start helping him out against Judgment Day? Do we see that kind of resemblance to when Bray Wyatt's family started coming in? Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, Braun Strowman. It all came about because it only took them a year to form the Wyatt family.
They
You
went
know,
after the Shield, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. So like
Yeah.
the very beginning of 2014, after the whole Bryan situation, they started targeting the Shield.
When I saw Braun Strowman getting attacked by Judgment Day, I kind of thought to myself, that would actually be a nice little feud there. You know, Bo Dallas coming out helping, um, you know, helping out Braun Strowman. I mean, look at the matches you got. You got Finn Balor, Dexter Lumis. You got Finn Balor, Joe Gacy, Finn Balor. What have you? Damian Priest versus Dexter Lumis. Damian Priest versus Joe Gacy. JD
So
McDonough versus. I mean, there's a whole rotation there.
so now here's my other idea when I saw the whole situation fall down
Yeah.
was now when you see Finn Balor get in between Liv and Dom. Do you feel like now the whole group does separate each other? So now if Dom does go with Liv Morgan after this whole situation with Rhea Ripley coming back and attacking Liv Morgan again,
Mm-hmm.
so when they do have their women's title match again, Dom pulls away and goes with Liv Morgan. So now the whole group is now disbanding each other the whole time. Do we see? Do we see the Judgment Day start unfolding now that they've been a group for the last 2 years? Do we see them distributing each other and pulling away from the whole group itself? And would you like to see maybe Demon Finn Balor join a like of a Wyatt Six family? So you would have Joey Gacy, you would have a Braun Strowman, a Dexter Lumis, and then maybe if Alexa Bliss does come back, and put herself with Bo Dallas, maybe we see an expandable group with the Wyatt Six.
It's funny because during the Bo Dallas video packages going around, there was a missing therapist, um, and the therapist looked a little bit like Alexa Bliss. And I don't know about you, dude, but when I see Alexa Bliss, I immediately think of Harley Quinn.
Right, right,
And
right.
having that similarity, that I mean, the rumor is there's also Nikki Cross. I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Alexa Bliss isn't ready to come back, but she has been active on social media, from what I know. We'll see. And
So
just like when Stone Cold Steve Austin came back at 38, she may ask her like, will people remember me, like, and have those nerves, but I think people will remember her and they'll be very excited for her return. But I mean, do we have two women? Do we have two women and three men in the White Six? But then again, we need one more member.
So if you do Braun Strowman, Dexter Lumis, and Joey Gacy, so now you have your three people
Mhm.
right there. If you bring Cross and Bliss in as a tag team
Yeah.
with their group, now you're looking at five people. So now if you bring Bo Dallas in, that's the leader of the group. So now that's your sixth person.
Well, I mean,
But then,
could you do the Wyatt Six and then Uncle Howdy is the ringleader, so to speak? So he's got his six people and him as the leader.
I think it's good to have him as the leader now because now that Bray Wyatt's gone, rest in peace, his soul. I feel like having Bo Dallas coming back for this whole adventure for himself, I think it's going to be a big treat to the WWE universe.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's going to be so much better than when he first came out and started the whole feud with Bray Wyatt. Because I feel like there was nothing going on every week when he came out to help Wyatt, especially at the Royal Rumble. Like, why would he jump off that stage onto LA Knight, and now you just see all his flames going about? So it's like, so now you're coming through the next couple weeks. Now he's attacking Bray Wyatt. So why are you attacking your nemesis, your your so-called character guy,
Yeah.
where now you're going to attack him. So now going to WrestleMania, everybody thought that match was going to happen, but apparently we were supposed to get the.
No. Hmm. Yeah.
And Bray Wyatt would have fought each other going into that May 39.
Yeah, they're very true. And it brings me back to like what you were talking about when uh, Bray Wyatt targeted Kane. Who was next? Obviously, the Undertaker. You know, and he almost saved him in that case. And
Um,
they had their match.
I I think it was a good idea that they did the whole Wyatt family versus the Brothers of Destruction a year later. I
Yeah.
think because they wanted to build everything up just so Bray Wyatt has enough matches under his belt, so that way when they do get to that Wyatt versus Taker match at 31, now we're seeing why they waited so long for them to do it. Instead, maybe I would have thought maybe WrestleMania 30 would have been a perfect timing to do
Hmm.
it. But
Yes.
Brock Lesnar needed an opponent, so it's like, okay, well, let's shove Undertaker out there, and they fight at WrestleMania. But they've already fought so many times, during the whole years combined. But now you're looking at them fighting at 30, which is like, well, why is Brock Lesnar fighting Undertaker at WrestleMania 30? Well, now I could have saved Bray Wyatt and Undertaker for WrestleMania 30. So that way, when they fight each other at 30, now Taker's got another win under his belt. So maybe 3 years later, Roman Reigns beats him, and now it's his first loss ever.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because now you're looking at what 31, 32, where I could put John Cena in one of those. I could do maybe do Brock Lesnar at 32. Yeah, think about it. 32 is in Dallas. You have 100,000 people in the crowd.
Mm.
I would rather if Taker's going to go out in a limb, or I tell you right now, I would have put my money down in Dallas, and I would have said, you know what, if Taker's going to retire in the Hall of Fame, I'll put him at WrestleMania 32. I'm going to have Sting versus Undertaker in a career versus career match.
Yeah. That was something that Sting really thought was going to be a thing, and 2015 was really, even 14 was really the only time to do it, but I don't think Vince wanted it. And you know I mean, they did wrestle back in the 80s, I think, or 90s, but it was before they were huge, before they became a big thing.
So back in I want to say 1990 or 91, when Mark Calloway as the Undertaker had a tag team with Paulie Dangerously back then, Paul Heyman. So when you look back at Taker back in his younger days, Sting was the big popularity wrestler back in the day, and
Yep.
people were thinking like, is this going to be the guy that's going to help my company throughout the next 10 something years before they crumble down and no one's going to watch that company anymore?
Hmm.
So, how can we find our guy for WWE or WWF back in the day where you have your stars like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley? When you look at Undertaker's career from when he first started at Survivor Series, you got to think to yourself, man, we're so glad that we did this back in 1990 at Survivor Series, because I probably want to think maybe Taker never would have done this character if it had not been for Vince McMahon to give him that call in WCW and say, hey, I think we could use you. I think we can have you be a perfect character over here. Let's give you a call, and we'll see what we can do. When Vince made that phone call to Undertaker at his house, I have the perfect name for you, and call him the Undertaker. So you know what he said? I'll do it.
Wow, is that what happened?
Yep. So Vince called him on the phone and told him, I have a great idea for you to come over here. We have a Grim Reaper type character you can play. And I think it'd be great for you to do for the next 20-something odd years. And it worked out perfectly.
Great. Yeah, I'm really intrigued with the psychological horror that Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Six are bringing, as far as the QR codes. But I'm just wondering when the reveal will be. But switching gears, so I said on my watch along, when Raw went off the air, I was another 5-10 minutes live, and I was saying, granted, there's one more week to go, but as we saw, Drew McIntyre was laid out in the from the Judgment Day last night, and I could have said easily to myself, okay, this Saturday is Clash of the Castle, but nope, we got one more week. Where do you see the show going next week into Clash of the Castle, with all the storylines developing from last night?
So I did catch on to the very beginning after the whole Dom and Liv situation. And I feel like these segments going into the pay-per-view next Saturday, I feel like it's gotten so much better since Backlash. And I know when the France people were so excited to have their first pay-per-view ever in history, I'm hoping that Scotland's ready for everything, because I think they threw out some really good matches for next weekend. And I'm hopeful by the time we get to SummerSlam that you're going to see new champions by the end of summer. And I'm hoping, like, by next weekend, we're going to find out, okay, so if Drew McIntyre does win the world title from Damian Priest, where do you see that going into Money in the Bank or into SummerSlam? Because do you honestly think that CM Punk comes back by SummerSlam and now we get Drew McIntyre and him for the world title? I don't think so.
Oh, dude, we're definitely going to get a CM Punk sighting at Clash of the Castle. He might have a stare down when McIntyre is definitely winning the title. I mean, it's in Scotland, it's in his home country. Of course, he's winning. This isn't Vince McMahon where the hometown hero loses a match. This is Triple H booking this. So you're gonna have Drew McIntyre win, and then as soon as he wins, you're gonna get maybe the graphic of okay, the show's over, good night everybody, and then you hear the static, and then CM Punk comes out. But then again, CM Punk could come out, have a stare down with Drew McIntyre in the middle of the ring, and then it could have the graphic, and the show could come to an end, having a cliffhanger. Oh, Punk's back. Raw. Raw's going to be exciting. What's going to happen on Monday?
So I saw a lot of things on a couple websites this past weekend where somebody was saying maybe do like a Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam between McIntyre and CM Punk. And I think doing a grudge match between the two would be just like, kind of odd and easy to go for just one match, especially if they're going to go into like Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. If he does come back at Clash of the Castle, now we're looking at, well, we have to move past Money in the Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So let's save it for SummerSlam, because I'm not going to go into London, England at Money in the Bank and we're going to throw this match under the fray. I don't want that. I want to see how the Cleveland crowd in Brown Stadium would want to see a Hell in a Cell match between McIntyre and Punk. Should it be for the world title? No. I think what should really happen, if McIntyre does win the belt, I do see by SummerSlam they do put the world title on the line against the two each other. but I don't think Punk wins the title until WrestleMania. Just
Yeah.
because I want them to set up the whole Seth Rollins versus CM Punk match going into WrestleMania next year.
So what?
So
So from what you're saying, Rollins is going to come back and win back the title from McIntyre.
or what I'm definitely saying is maybe possibly have Punk win the belt from McIntyre. So when Rollins does come back, Rollins can take the world title off of Punk, and then we get a rematch at WrestleMania.
I had the idea. It's been a very, very long time this match has happened, but what if they do SummerSlam Punk and McIntyre for the title, 3 stages of hell?
At SummerSlam.
Yes.
I could see that. I could see that. I could totally see that. Like I like how it's kind of like how they did with Austin and Triple H at No Way Out. Like doing like Austin wins the Rumble, or like Punk. Yeah, like Punk would win the Rumble next year,
Right.
and then like go into the next month at Chamber and do like a 3 stages of hell match before he goes into WrestleMania. So that way, like everybody's making his life a living hell. So when he goes into Mania next year, now we're getting that world title match or title match with Cody or something, and now he's gonna win the belt from them. You know,
I mean, so, and then going to SmackDown from last Friday, as you saw, um, AJ Styles teased a fake retirement only to turn on Cody and beat him up. Now, Nick Aldis told him, like, you lost it Backlash, back of the line, and AJ Styles pretty much said, I'm, a little late in my career for that to wait. So, what did he do? He tagged the champion. Do you see another match in the pipeline, or was that kind of a one-off?
um, I saw
Because
it
the
being
match they
a
had
kind
at
of like a
Backlash was
one-off.
really good. I mean, you and I covered it.
So, Mark Henry actually brought up a good point. I read his interview said with somebody last weekend, and he said the whole segment between him and John Cena back in the day was really supposed to be setting up where Mark Henry was supposed to beat him for the world title.
Right.
And Vince wanted Mark Henry to be his like world champion because they wanted Cena to leave for a while and come back stronger than ever. Well, the way they did this time with AJ Styles, I do see another match unfolding between him and Cody. Um, should it be maybe a ladder match at Money in the Bank? Clash of the Castle. I mean, we're only 10 days away from Clash of the Castle, and
Yep.
they haven't even booked the match yet. So maybe what I would do if Cody doesn't have a match um by Clash of the Castle, I move it on to Money in the Bank. Cody wins again, and then going into SummerSlam, I do see him feuding with Randy Orton going to SummerSlam.
That match would be very good because, as you know, their ties with Legacy back in 2009. That's going to be great storytelling.
It's going to be
Very,
very storytelling because
that's
they
very
have
good.
a long history going back to 2009.
Yep. So switching gears to AEW, I sent you a text message. First and foremost, AEW Fight Forever is going to be on PlayStation Plus until July 2nd. What do you think of that?
It's very intriguing. I like it
Are you
because
gonna
it's
check it
very
out?
intriguing. So I like the fact that like nowadays they're starting to put games on PlayStation Plus nowadays. I think it's
Right.
a good move on PlayStation's backhand. And the only reason I say that is because I think most systems you would think back like 2, 3 something years ago, they would have already done this kind of stuff where like when a
Right.
new game comes out, put it on the PlayStation Plus or the Xbox One the Game Pass.
Right.
So when you're looking at into newer games coming into the fray into that
Yep.
year, can I see them doing more games straight through um, like the PlayStation Store, or as we would call it, the Game Pass for
Right.
both PlayStation or for Xbox. So I do think PlayStation made the right move in doing such a thing for AEW's game. I'm hoping down the line, I'm hoping more games are set up um to be in the more of their wake, where they can put more games onto the Game Pass month in and month out.
Yes. Speaking of the back catalog, for PlayStation exclusively, the SmackDown series, SmackDown Just Bring It, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, SmackDown Know Your Role, and for the first SmackDown, hopefully those are in the PlayStation Premium Edition for the classics, because that would make me want to get a PlayStation 5, because the SmackDown games were the reason I got a PlayStation 2 back in the day. I loved them so
Right,
much.
right.
And then they came out with SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, was still an exclusive, and then 2007 became multi-plat. At the time, I had an Xbox 360. I was so excited. I bought the game day one, and then everything became multi-plat after that. I read an article that the game came out last June, June 29th of 2023. Ukes, Kenny Omega, and a bunch of other people, they were saying, they admitted that they should have waited the extra year. So we're looking at late June of 2024. It should have been released, because the game isn't hitting the strides that they want what they want to have. It's their first video game. You want to, you want to go out with a bang. You want to make sure the product the product is as good as it can be. There are bugs. There is like limited content. There are DLC packs which have stages, game modes, and wrestlers, but you're paying $60, and then on top of that, it's a Rainbow Six situation where you're paying for operatives, you're paying for different maps, and it's $15, for the whole season. I don't know how long that season is, 6 months. And then after the 6 months, goes ahead, you're paying another $15 for season two. And then to add insult to injury, they just released a complete edition, all four seasons for $100. What does that say for the people that bought the game day one? And not only that, but the game right now is now $40 instead of 60, which should have been the case from the start. This game should have been $40 at least. I mean, I understand you're putting millions of dollars into this game, but you also have to realize it's your first wrestling game. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how the wrestling crowd is going to, attack it. Um, Yeah, I mean, I haven't played it yet. I haven't bought it yet. I really, really want to play it. If it comes to Game Pass, I'll play it. One day I'll buy it when the game is complete and done, and everything is shiny and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to wait. And if it comes to Game Pass, I'll check it out. And there was a three free weekend of to play it, but I wasn't a Game Pass subscriber at the time, so I didn't get the privilege to play the game. But like I said, it's on PlayStation Plus until July 2nd. Have at it. Let me know how it is.
So when you look into like you said, the very first five SmackDown games when they first came out in, I want to say, 1999, you have to understand that the quality of the game is definitely the game modes and the game. Always going to be game modes and trying to remember what the thing's called. So they put more stuff now
Yep.
into the games now that are being made now for the PlayStation Xbox games. So when you look back at the games that came out in 99, 2000, all those, we didn't have all these game modes that we can play now that we did back in the day when we played them. Because, yeah, the storylines, the story modes were kind of so much different. Like when you play Just Bring It, you could play like pin like 100 guys in under 60 minutes or under 30 minutes. So those are the kind of things I think they're trying to bring back for people to play because I think people are just getting tired of playing the same stuff year in and year out.
Yes.
When you look at like a Shut Your Mouth or a Here Comes the Pain type game, I want to play something where like I can play a story mode game in it where I can play something that happened from like a 2001 year or a 2002 year. I play the whole thing throughout instead of doing like certain storylines inside the career mode.
Right.
And like when you play the original SmackDown game, you're fighting everybody. Like you're like even though there is a storyline to it, it's a regular storyline where like you're playing somebody. If you're playing a Stone Cold, you're going through Taker or somebody challenges you like a Kane or a Triple H. Somebody's just challenging you night in and night out. But when you get to like WrestleMania, that's it. You've completed the whole month, the whole year. So then when you go to your next year as champion, you're just doing the same thing you did year prior. When you look at like the 22 and 23 and hopefully this year's, they're doing showcases where
Right.
like you can play like a Stone Cold from like 2016,
Mm-hmm.
a 2K16 where you can do from his 96 debut all the way to 2003, which is
Yeah.
great because you're playing those 6 years in for the showcase. We're like, okay, I want to play Bret Hart at WrestleMania. I want to play, I want to do the Royal Rumble where like he actually wins it. He doesn't really win it, but he comes back and throws Bret out to win the Rumble. So now there's a storyline going in through that showcase where, like, I'm amazed at the storyline they put into this because I want to play it. Not just because of the moves they're doing or the backstage stuff that they're doing. I want to learn every story that they've put through and all their money into just this game mode.
Yeah.
I want to learn how they processed it, how they made it so much better than what they did back when we played the first couple SmackDowns.
Yeah.
And like now when you play like the 25 years of WrestleMania the 40 years of WrestleMania in 2K24, you could play like Randy Savage versus Steamboat. You could play like Hogan versus Warrior. You can play as Piper versus Brett. You could do different matches at WrestleMania where like you can play those matches.
Right.
So the producers of the game are giving you chances of playing those different matches in career mode or story mode or whatnot, like showcase in the game. But when
Yeah.
you take a game and you're putting everything the DCLs and everything else put into a game, you got to make sure that you're putting all the right tools and material into that game. So that way, when you do go out and play it, I don't want to get so frustrated where like you're playing a game like uh uh Assassin's Creed and you're trying to beat the level and all of a sudden you're getting so frustrated because the DCL they put into the game, you're like, oh my god, why is this happening? Why am I getting stuck in this game?
Oh, dude,
You know,
don't even get me started on WWE Battlegrounds. So I know you've played WWE All Stars. I didn't, and when Battlegrounds came out, you were there.
yes,
You bought it for me for my birthday because I wanted
right,
to check it out, dude. It was okay. I mean, the AI countered everything. It was a really really challenging game, especially the cage matches. But going back to like the SmackDown games, what shined for me was the story modes, the yearly story modes, and you don't really see that nowadays. It's usually like you said, the showcases, which are great, but they only last for so long. And
right.
just like Madden, just like FIFA, just like any yearly game, Call of Duty, it's the same game, just different different characters, different game modes. Why don't they just make it? I mean, even though the game sucks right now, look at what AEW is doing. One single game release, but it's constant updates, whether it's new wrestlers, new game modes, new arenas, but they have yearly releases for $70 each. 24, 25, 26. I don't know how long it's going to go for until they have that contract with 2K. But to be honest, bro, they need to get out of 2K. I don't know where else they could go when it comes to making a wrestling game. I mean, they were with Ukes for the longest time, but going, I don't know. I mean, we we may have them for a couple more years, and they might. I mean, from what I see, I mean, they're doing well, sales wise. I mean, it seems like they're hitting their marks every year. Um, we'll see, but talking about AEW and WWE right now, Swerve Strickland says that if now is the best time to do an AEW and WWE Forbidden Door, and I couldn't agree more. Both companies, well, I would say WWE more than AEW. Both companies are, they're intriguing. They're on every week. Obviously, they hit their strides every now and then. When it comes to stories and what's going on when it comes to matches. I think Swerve Strickland's got a point. If it were to happen, I don't know if WWE would be on board, but I don't know. I mean, Tony Khan says that WWE is like an evil company, and they're trying to like beat them. And dude, they're not. They're never going to beat WWE. They're such a juggernaut. But I mean, if they're willing to work together to um, yeah, to work with each other and have these dream matches, so to speak. I mean, you're looking at Seth Rollins versus Will Ospreay. I mean, you mentioned Ricochet versus Will Ospreay for the New Japan. Like that could happen again. People online, the IWC fan base will go crazy about which company's better. But here's a news flash, guys. Both companies are great. Watch wrestling and be grateful you have two great companies out there. I'm sure WCW and WWE, WWF at the time when they had their, battles on Monday night, dude, I don't know. If social media was back then, I don't know if we would get, the energy we get from the fan base right now. But dude, it's disgusting. Like, just watch wrestling and just watch and shut your mouth.
So you really brought up a really good point about the
Yeah.
whole WCW WWE invasion. Um, I was thinking about this last night while I was watching a couple old episodes of Raw, and you also brought up a good point with the Will Ospreay and Seth Rollins. I do think in years' time and future, I do see a invasion between WWE and AEW. In future's time, I do see it. Right now, I don't, just because I think Triple H needs to get at least a couple more years under his belt just to be a CEO of the company, just to make his products go well, his venues go well, even especially the pleas. The pleas are going to be like the impact of what you do weekly on a weekly basis on your television shows.
Right.
And I think that's why you're getting better shows now on a Monday night or a Friday night compared to a Wednesday night, a Friday night, and a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So when you do an invasion like they did back in 2001, I only thought that they did a very good job of bringing guys in the very beginning. Like when you watch Booker T come in the very beginning and go after Stone Cold, we didn't know that was going to happen right away. You thought guys maybe like a Diamond Dallas Page, Scott Hall, Nash, Sting, all these guys that come from a different company that was building 83 weeks straight and being a company 83 weeks straight on television made for a good showing for 83 weeks straight for in ratings. You would think coming into another company, and having that invasion for at least a couple months made it out for a good showing through June all the way to August.
Hmm.
Because now you're looking at, okay, in July, we want to set up at least one good 5-on-5 match where, like, you give me your top 5 for WCW, I'll give you my top 5 from WWE. And what do? They threw out Austin, an Angle, a Jericho, and Kane and Taker. So, when Austin turned heel, we're looking at now Austin's playing the bad guy for WCW because you got to think about it. Stone Cold came from WCW when he first started.
Yes,
So when you go and look at all the things he did before he left to go to ECW in between, he needed to show what kind of person he was as a leader coming into WWE after he left ECW. So now we're getting that. Go ahead.
Invasion was actually my first WWF pay-per-view I ever watched. My neighbor at the time, I went over at his house while his family was, in London for the, they have family over there. They were there for the summer, and Invasion was on. Well, they were all over there for the summer, and they let us, come into the house and watch the pay-per-view. Dude, I enjoyed that pay-per-view so much. And it's funny you bring up, Stone Cold being in WCW beforehand, because when I saw WCW turning on WWF, I had no, I was like, wait, what? And now you bring that up that he used to be in WCW, so that's why that happened. And they just made such good storytelling from week to week to week about what was going on, in the world of professional wrestling from WWE and WCW and ECW. It made it fun, and if WWE and AEW can come to their terms and just put their egos aside, I think it would make for great television. But I'm gonna put the reins onto you. What would you like to talk about? Anything WWE or AEW related?
Figure out how to put this in a reflective. I think if AEW and WWE did do a Forbidden Door pay-per-view, just
Right.
one great pay-per-view, I don't care if it's at the end of the year, middle, or the beginning. I think what they could really do, and even if they put it in the very beginning of the year, I think it would stretch everything out so much well that it would all end at probably like in the summertime.
Yep.
So like whatever the summertime pay-per-view for like an AEW or WWE would be, it would be so much better to watch because now we're getting storylines from January going all the way to August. So now we're looking at different matches for like AEW, WWE. People are going to like this company, and it's like what the fuck's going on? Why are we like watching people jump? It's like jumping to like the Dudley Boys were WWF product, and they jumped over to WCW ECW Invasion. So it's like, well, why are we getting those two happening? Because we already know that they were ECW product. So now we know why they did it. But in this,
Right. Now hold on. They could do CM Punk versus MJF. Okay. They could do that again. That would be great.
to everybody in conclusive because we want to see different matches night in and night out. I don't want to see the same things happen on a Monday or a Wednesday night. I want to see something brand new. Like if they're gonna do two matches the same in back-to-back weeks, and you haven't figured out what you guys are gonna do the rest of the month, they need to figure that stuff out in the beginning of the month or the second week in because like WWE used to do during COVID, they
Right.
should do like the same matches back to back to back. And like, if they didn't have an idea or for their product going into that pay-per-view month, it's like, well, why am I watching the same crap every single week where I can change this up, and then after that pay-per-view match is over, I can go to a new idea for new matches and new storylines.
Yeah.
You know, and like when you watch AEW nowadays, like I watched the last 2 weeks, you know, you would think they'd be bringing up like newer guys to fight each other like each week. Like I'm glad to do the new Owen Hart World Cup tournament now, which is great because you're giving different people opportunities to not just fight for the cup, but
Right.
to fight different guys in matches where it's like I've never seen this match before. Like when I went to Monday Night Raw a couple years ago, and I watched Samoa Joe versus Ricochet. You had a bigger guy versus a skinny guy that does high flying maneuvers everywhere. We had a guy that just does all submission moves. So it's like I want to see different style of wrestling throughout each week and each night. Where like I'm amazed by this because
Yep.
back in the day, you weren't really watching all this. You're watching guys just fight each other. We didn't care about the storyline. We didn't care about the matches. We just want to see what happens.
Yeah.
So now, as we get closer to getting to storylines year in and year out, we got to see where this can lead up to the bigger pay-per-views, WrestleMania, Revolution, or like World's End or Survivor Series. Because now, like we said this on our last show, now we're getting to a point with the Civil War bloodline storyline between Solo Sokoa, Tomatonga, Tawaalu, and maybe one more person added to their group. So now we're getting 4 of those versus Roman Reigns, Hopi versus with Jimmy and Jey Uso back together, and maybe or instead of Sami Zayn coming back to the group, maybe you put somebody else in frame. Maybe bring Rikishi back for one last match. You know, so that way we get this whole Civil War thing situated out at Survivor Series. So now when you go into WrestleMania next year, you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny. You got me thinking. So with Money in the Bank, they'll always have like an interference when it comes to like people not trying to cash in the Money in the Bank.
Right.
So Jey Uso announced he's gonna do Money in the Bank. What if it comes down to him and somebody else, and he beats the shit out of them, and then like he's the only one in the ring, and then the bloodline comes in and diminishes his chances of being Mr. Money in the Bank, only for Jimmy Uso to assist his brother, and that's how they get back together.
So I really do like the idea of um Jey Uso trying for the briefcase and for everybody in the bloodline trying to get after him because they don't want to see him as Money in the Bank going into the rest of the year. So if that's going to be the case, and they want to start setting up the whole storyline with the Civil War situation going on, I can see that happening.
Yeah.
But by SummerSlam, they were saying by SummerSlam, we could have uh, Tonga Taga and Tyler Iloa versus the Usos going into SummerSlam. And if that's going to be the case, and both of them are going to fight each other at SummerSlam, I could see that match going into Survivor Series where we have the 4-on-4 War Games match.
Yeah, I can see that.
And now, if you were to ask me the next question, where who do I think would win Money in the Bank this year? My marbles would have been on Jey Uso just because, I would like to at least see him go in to Money in the Bank with the briefcase
Yep.
and come out as a champion because I could see him for at least maybe 2 to 3 months as champion.
I mean, looking at his entrance, I mean, him coming out with Money in the briefcase only to do the wave. I mean, that would be pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people are saying LA Knight, but then again, if you look at the Royal Rumble, he already had his title match against Roman Reigns and lost. I mean, he's already eyeing Logan Paul for the U.S. title. He'll probably win that at SummerSlam, even though Logan Paul's from Cleveland. Um, as far as the women go, I mean, Tiffany Stratton, I've said this before. A lot of people in the IWC have said this. You know, that briefcase is built for Tiffany Stratton, and she's done such a great job as a performer that I think management knows that, and they're going to give her flowers as, you know, women's champion, or in this case, Money in the Bank, where she can, you know, cash in whenever she wants.
Oh, I was thinking about this the other day where I don't think we do briefcases anymore. I would totally get rid of all these briefcases. I feel like it's it it just defeats the purpose of holding on to the briefcase for a year now. And I feel like every time somebody holds on for that briefcase for a whole year, we gotta wait till WrestleMania for them to cash it in. And like when you've watched Damian Priest do what he did with his briefcase, he waited 5 months, 6 months to cash his in.
Yep.
So when you look at a person, yes, like a Tiffany Stratton, going into the year or in the last couple of years, especially when she was in NXT, you watch her grow as a performer, and people watch how she performs every night in NXT. And when she made her debut on the main roster, she can show you how well she performs on a main roster spot. It's going to show her how well of a champion she's going to become when she does win that title soon. And I think people are going to realize when she does win that title, she's going to hold it for a very long time. And I don't think people are like looking at her as like the next Charlotte Flair or like a Sasha Banks or maybe even a Becky Lynch. But the problem is, I don't see her if she does win the title, I won't see her really holding it too long, for more than maybe a year. Then that's why when we looked at people like Bianca Belair hold it for a year and a half, we got tired of it. So we wanted to see somebody who can at least be a Gunther and hold a title for at least more than 2 to 3 years going in. We've never seen a women's champion in the last 30 something years that we've had all these women compete. We've never really seen a woman hold a women's title belt for more than 3 to 4 years. I mean, if I'm looking at my corrections back in history, I think the Fabulous Moolah was probably the longest women's champion in history for their side. But now, if we look at this generation, can we see in the next 4 to 5 years, can we see at least one woman in this whole division keep a title longer than 2 to 3 years?
Is her name Jade? Is her name Jade Cargill?
I mean, yeah. We can definitely see that happening with her doing it. But can we see somebody that's not a Jade Cargill and somebody that's a normal like human being, body built but not like a Jade Cargill? Like we can have a Bailey right now going through her situation because she's been injured for 2 years, and now she's coming back to win her title. So now Nia Jax going after her doesn't seem right at all. And I think putting the Queen of the Ring on her head doesn't seem right at all. And I think it was just giving the time where like Bailey needed more competition. She needed somebody else to fight after she beat God, who she beat at WrestleMania? She beat Io Sky at WrestleMania.
Yep.
So now it's like,
oh, she's gonna have competition with Nia Jax. You can believe that.
And I think I just feel like Nia Jax doesn't give people the time of day to put herself in a match because I get the fact that like we need a bigger woman to solidify the whole women's division, but the problem is, can we see more women be taller or more, not skinnier, heavier, bigger? We've had those back in the day, like back in the early '90s. We had like a Medusa, we had a Sakura Sikoa, where we had these women fighting back in the day, back in the early '90s, where they fought women all over the place from New Japan, Ring of Honor, Independence, everywhere. And now when you look at this division now, and you bring a woman like Nia Jax into the fray again, it's only because you have people out like a Charlotte Flair is out right now. You have no more Sasha Banks. Tiffany Stratton go after her when she wins the title. So maybe that happens, but I don't see it happening at like a WrestleMania. I think maybe like at if Tiffany wins the Money in the Bank briefcase, I can see her like easily winning it at SummerSlam possibly, or maybe at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting until WrestleMania season coming around and her giving up the briefcase at WrestleMania just so she can win at WrestleMania, maybe just put them in a match after she just had a long match with whoever.
Yep.
And that way, instead of doing like a 4 or 5 minute match, at least give us like another 20 something minutes in the ring instead of doing like a 4 or 5 minute match right away and winning right away.
I mean, bro,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is what I said last night on my watch along. Like, you had Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair coming out with the WWE tag titles, which is great. And then they versed Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, was it? No, that was last week.
Yes.
Or was it? Well, it was last night, dude. I went to the bathroom. I was like, I dropped my computer, and I went to the bathroom and I did what I needed to do because, dude, if I was in Hershey, Pennsylvania last night, not only would I drive to Hershey Park and get on a fucking roller coaster, and the roller coaster would be longer than the match, I'd go to the concession stand, I'd go to the bathroom, I would do anything to avoid that match because it's the same song and dance. The power of Jade and Bianca, the hot tag, Jade showing how powerful she is, Bianca showing how powerful she is. But these tag titles are taking up talent that could be on a singles run. And that's why WWE having a mid card title for the women, like AEW is doing for the TBS title, is so needed. They need to drop the tag titles now. I understand why it's on Bianca and Jade because it's a gateway to the split up, which will happen, and they will have their match at Vegas. Who do you got? Who are you betting on? Are you betting on Bianca or are you betting on Jade? They're going to go that route. So it's the vehicle to that match. But other than this, I don't see a point. You're taking mixed shift tag teams and women who are singles wrestlers and holding them hostage on these tag titles where they should be broken up, burnt. These titles should be burnt. They need to have a singles title other than women's title for these women to fight for.
Right.
It's getting ridiculous, dude.
I just feel like, and this is my honest opinion right now. I feel like the women's division, it's gotten so horrible with the tag team division going on, and we don't really need to solidify having tag team titles on anybody. Like, if we're gonna have and I think JD brought this up a couple of weeks ago on his podcast, and I think he said we need more a U.S. Women's title belt coming out, a intercontinental or international women's championship belt coming out now. So that way we can have more solo belts for different women. So that way we can have um more singles matches instead of doing women's tag team matches anymore. Like those tag titles basically mean nothing. They literally mean nothing to anybody.
JD from
So
NY206, if you're listening to this, thank you because you've inspired us to, make a podcast for ourselves and speak our minds. And, you've opened our minds to the bullshit that WWE and AEW provide us on a weekly basis. And this is it. I'm considering sending him a super chat. Do you know why the women's division is shit? It's because of those tag titles. Like I'm going to say it again. I'm going to be a broken record. You're taking singles women and putting them in mixed shift tag teams for what? For what? To defend these tag titles?
And then when they lose and they go on to defend them, who are they going to defend them to? Another makeshift tag team? Like the division they
Like,
get because of these tag titles. It's ridiculous, dude.
I mean, and
I mean,
the
and
thing is,
AEW wants to do it too. They want to have it. Why?
well, this is what happens when we have more tag team women's wrestling, and it makes no sense to have tag team titles. When we
Yeah,
watched tag team women's wrestling back
sorry to
in
cut you
our
off, dude,
era,
but if you want to look at the women's division and you want to you want to scout talent, why don't you look at women wrestling? I mean, I saw a couple. It was on basic cable. I watched a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes. From what I saw, it was not bad. Scout talent there. Scout talent at other promotions. The bigger promotions, I feel, they are, with the television time they're given. But with the indie promotions, I feel they shine more. I think WWE is doing that when it comes to scouting, with the women's division. What AEW is doing with their women's division, they had someone from New Japan come out last week, and she's going to challenge Mercedes at Forbidden Door, which is awesome. Keep bringing these women in, and first and foremost, tell us who these women are. Like the promo package for this woman from New Japan, and then she faces off to Mercedes. We know who this woman is. She's from New Japan. It was only a 5 minute video, but it's better than nothing.
well, the thing that got me the most was the fact that when Mercedes Monet, aka Sasha Banks, showed up on AEW, my first thought and theory with her was, why would she get a title shot right away? And that doesn't make any sense at all. And I feel like, when you make it an impact or a debut in another company, why should you have to go? It's like being like Charlotte Flair. Why should I have to be in a title shot picture right away when I come back?
Bro, I
Like,
don't want to bring it up, but it's like Goldberg and Bray Wyatt in Saudi Arabia. Goldberg gonna be like, "Oh no, Vince, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think we should bury an up and coming talent." But what do? Goldberg fucking speared him to hell and won the Universal Championship. Bray Wyatt's remains are probably still out there.
I think the fact that Vince having his veterans try to win the title on, like, out of nowhere is just devastating, because you really feel like that WWE is letting us down by not sharing us the new talent that they bring in. So that way, instead of having Goldberg put over on Bray Wyatt, let's have Bray Wyatt put over Goldberg. So that way, we get Bray Wyatt as a winning streak going within the next, like, a year or so in. So that way, we know that if the Fiend can beat everybody going in from his new character, we already know from that point on we have a guy that he has beaten everybody on the roster, and is there anybody left on the roster for him to beat? That's like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns went, what, 3 to 4 years in, and he's beating everybody on the roster. So when Cody Rhodes comes back, now we have a guy that can finally beat you.
Dude, there I was on YouTube and there was a picture, the community pictures of a YouTuber. He posted something. It was basically a picture of Roman Reigns in a hyperbaric chamber with getting oxygen, and Paul Heyman was looking at him like, when are you ready to come out? Dude, when Roman Reigns comes back, he's going to be a baby face. And you see the chance, when you see Solo on TV, and the new bloodline, so to speak, you hear the chance of, we want Roman. Dude, when Roman comes back, it's the storyline. We thought the storyline before Mania was good. This is going to excel that storyline. And when the Rock comes back, it's going to get even better. I can't wait.
Um, I will agree with you. on one thing is when Roman does come back, I do see a bigger impact than what we got when he first came back during COVID. Because when you see him like go from a heel back then to a now babyface, how's that going to be impacted from what you did for 3 to 4 years as a heel going into now being back a babyface again?
Yeah.
And I think that these fans deserve
Yep.
the right Roman Reigns that we should have gotten back in 2015, 2016 and up for it.
Yes. I mean, I remember when he was a babyface, it wasn't working, but to bring him in as a heel, working with Paul Heyman, I remember that vividly. It was August of 2020, and they had Roman Reigns talking, and then they pan over to Paul Heyman. I'm like, whoa, they're pairing Paul Heyman with Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns is a heel. Like how the outcry of fans have wanted Roman Reigns as a heel. We finally get it. Not only that, but we had 4 years and a couple months of him being his champion, and he came out to this great music, and he was the shit, dude. And I mean, for him to come back to be a heel, not have the title, it doesn't have the same oomph as it did if he had the title. So him to come back as a babyface, you know, it makes sense. But for him to come back as a babyface only to challenge and bring down the new bloodline, bring back Jay and Jimmy Uso, align themselves with them, maybe bring back Sami Zayn, maybe going back to Monday Night Raw with Chad Gable and that whole storyline with Otis, maybe Chad Gable does win the title from Otis, or with Chad Gable wins the title from Sami Zayn, and then you get the Creed brothers, aligning themselves with Chad Gable. Does Sami Zayn then align with Roman Reigns and the bloodline, be that honorary Uce that he once was, but more in a baby face form to align with Roman and Jimmy and Jay to take on the new bloodline, possibly at War Games.
So the good thing I will tell you is I'm so glad that they picked after WrestleMania to start doing the Civil War bloodline storyline was because I think once Roman lost the title, I think we were gonna get him to go away for a while, just so that way when he does come back as a babyface, I feel like it's gonna make it so much better going to WrestleMania 41 next year with him facing The Rock. And I think The Rock playing as the devil's advocate right now as a heel
Yep.
is gonna play out so well going to Mania. Because I feel like now we're getting a story between him and Roman going into Mania is gonna set up for a big match going to next year's WrestleMania.
So going back to the Raw after Mania, where The Rock came out, he went to Cody and he asked him. He said, "Cody, do you mind if I hold that title?" Rock held the title. He said it felt good, and then he said, "The Rock's going away for a little bit, but he will see you again very soon." Do you see a match between The Rock and Cody at SummerSlam?
I definitely see I definitely see it happening. If not, I think we see Cody versus Randy Orton going to SummerSlam. But if The Rock comes out in London at Money in the Bank or the night after, I do see Rock and Cody fighting at SummerSlam this year.
Yeah, good. So we are almost 70 minutes in, an hour and 10 minutes in. Is there anything you want to talk about before our first show here comes to an end, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
So, so I did want to throw something out to you. Um, I know you grew up watching the Attitude Era back in the late 2000s. Do you remember back when Austin first won the Rumble in '97, and Vince McMahon was doubtly trying to keep Austin as a heel before he faced Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13?
I was not. I can tell you, the first time I watched wrestling, it was a SmackDown. It involved I don't know if it was a trip. I don't know if it's a 6-man. It involved The Rock, Big Show, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, and Kane or Big Show. That was my first WWE WWF show ever. I don't know. I think that was 2000. No, it couldn't have been 2001. Maybe 2000, but it was definitely
Yeah.
not. And then it definitely wasn't 97.
Okay, so my brother and I both grew up watching back in 1996. And when Austin first won the Rumble, we thought ourselves, could he make a run in the very beginning and stay as a heel for maybe a good solid 2 to 3 years?
Mm.
And the thing is, though, I think Vince looked at Austin after that WrestleMania 13 match, saying that we now finally have our baby face going into the next 2 to 3 years. And I think having him um, as a heel in the very beginning was very smart of Vince to do, because we wanted to see what Bret Hart was going to do coming in after the Royal Rumble in 1997. And I think having them both come after each other after Survivor Series 96 when they first fought each other, I think we were going to get a very, very good storyline coming in after that 96 Survivor Series between him, Bret Hart, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, I will tell you this. When Austin did win that Rumble, somebody on a website that I did find out months ago had said we were supposed to get a Stone Cold versus Undertaker title match going into WrestleMania 13.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had known that since then,
No.
but
Didn't.
the only reason why I did say that was because Shawn Michaels relinquished the title in between the Rumble and WrestleMania 13. And if it had not been for Shawn relinquishing the title, we were definitely going to get a Shawn versus Taker WrestleMania 13 match. And not, I'm sorry, not a Stone Cold, a Shawn versus Taker WrestleMania 13 match for the title.
Interesting.
And
Cool.
that would have been their very first title match ever if that had happened.
All right. I would have been down for that. Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to throw out there? Any info that you want to give out to anybody here that's listening?
Well, I know you're a big NFL guy, and as we all know, Gable Stevenson is signing with the Bills. What are your thoughts on that?
So when I first read that this past weekend, him signing with Buffalo, I kind of thought to myself, you know what? They wasted all this money on him going from one sport to another. And my first thought in theory was, when they signed Stevenson to WWE contract, my first thought was, okay, let's put him in the ring with Chad Gable,
I remember
because
that.
we all know that putting them two in the ring together would be great. We're definitely getting a 35, 40-minute like Iron Man match
That
between
was
the
at
two of them.
WrestleMania, right? You gave him like a
Yes,
belly-to-belly suplex or something.
yes. And when you now look at him signing a contract with the Buffalo Bills and now being their defensive line or defensive end guy now, it's kind of like watching Brock Lesnar play football for the Minnesota Vikings. Like,
Yes.
he only played those 4 preseason games and never made the main roster. So it's like, is Gable really gonna play football in the NFL after that last preseason game? I don't think so. I
I
don't
mean,
see it happening at all.
will he be in the preseason and then the main season, or I mean, I don't know. Is he like a lock in, or are they still trying to tread raw water with him? Or
They would, so right now they have him signed up as a contract to their team. He can play the very first 2 preseason games going to the third. Now, once the second preseason ends, now they have to try to cut their roster down at the 70. I think it's 65 or 70 guys, and then once that last one ends, they gotta cut everybody to 53. So I can definitely see I definitely see Gable trying to make that last spot if they can, because if they don't, I could probably see him on the practice squad going into the season. If not, I think WWE made a huge mistake in not letting him wrestle for the year past before he got his contract with WWE.
Yeah, the poor guy. He was drafted to Raw, and
Right,
we never saw him. Uh,
right.
yeah, but I mean, they got Chad Gable. You know, they got the Creed brothers. They're great. I'm excited to see what Chad Gable and the Creeds will bring. You know, for the heel teams that the heels they are. I'm excited to see what the TV work there. But guys, that's gonna do it for our first episode or our first show. We're gonna make this a weekly thing. We're still working on the title. Um, News throughout the week, and we're going to bring it to you the best we can. Go over some, past history of, wrestling and whatever topics we want to discuss. We're going to discuss it, as a duo, and then bring you guys the best footage we can. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and enjoy your Tuesday. I will be live tomorrow for my watch along for AW Dynamite. Theo, do you have anything planned on your end?
No, I definitely will be home early to watch Dynamite tomorrow. So if I'm watching live with Ryan Heisler, I definitely will be live with him as well. If not,
All right, guys. I'm Heis5man, and this is T.
I'm T.
Have a good night.
Good night.